Hi, everybody. Okay, give me 1 second to figure out Instagram Live. Technical difficulties. I think that's all I do. Okay, let's see if this works. Thanks for joining. If you are joining today, first, I just want to say I can't guarantee who's going to come out behind me. I'm out in our backyard under our latio, which is what I nicknamed the Lanterman patio, and it's probably one of the favorite features of my house. So we love to have friends over here, watch TV outside, have drinks outside. And I thought, you know what, at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, which was really the only time that I could figure out how to be kind of consistent in the week to tell stories, outside without the kids is probably best, but I can't guarantee somebody's not going to bust through that door at any moment. So see? Anyway, I wanted to get on here today, and my thought behind this is, first, I just wanted to try something different and push myself a little bit. And secondly, this is my 21st year in real estate. I absolutely love what I do. Good morning, Angela. Oh, you're so sweet for logging on. And it never ceases to amaze me, motorcycle, obviously people are buying and selling real estate, and it is a huge transaction. It's a big part of their life. But the coolest part for me is the story behind the transaction. Like, why are they moving? What does it look like in their life? Whatever. So I'm going to jump to the point now that I think I've got Instagram up. I'm on StreamYard, so I'm on Facebook and YouTube, business and personal pages. Hi, honey. And anyway, so I just want to jump into my first story that I thought was such a cool one to start with. It's about a young couple. They are not married yet. One has a full-time job. One has, I think, a part-time job, and then is still going to school to get a master's program. And we met initially back in January. They interviewed me at a local coffee shop. They were trying to pick between a few different agents, and we quickly just formed a really good bond. We had a blast together. It was really fun. And they were like, we're going to casually start looking in February. Ideally, we want to close around like April, May, that time frame. And so we got started very casually, set up a search on the MLS, and just kind of started looking at things. And they were traveling. There was like a trip here and there they would go. So they're like, we're going to be gone this weekend, and if anything comes up, we'll let you know. When I have buyers from out of state, I will oftentimes do like a video recording of a tour of the house, with the agent's permission, and post that video on like YouTube privately for my clients, and I'll do a Facebook Live too, or FaceTime, something like that. But you can't go back and reference those. So with the hosting them on YouTube, my clients can go back like 13 times during the transaction and rewatch that video, like, where was that closet, or whatever they need to know. So anyway, they were like, we're in and out of town. And then the market caught absolute fire. And all of a sudden, I had a listing in Westminster. We got 36 offers one weekend, and it ended up selling for $560,000. Every buyer that I had was writing really competitive offers, and we weren't winning the offers. And it just was over the period of like 3 weeks that things just took off with fierce force. And so I reached out to them and I said, I know you guys aren't in a huge hurry, but I also think what I'm seeing in this market, you're going to end up spending so much more if we wait than if you do right now. And actually, DMAR just came out. So DMAR is the Denver Metro Association of Realtors. They have a lot of info and stat tracking that they do. And they just came out last week and said the difference between 1 month, if buyers wait and do a purchase price of, $500,000 in March, by April, that same house is probably going to sell for about $535,000. So if you think of that, that's $35,000 difference in 1 month. And that's what I was picking up in the market with these buyers. That's what I was telling them. Like, you guys might want to not wait. It's going to be costly if we wait. So they did heed the warning. We started pounding the pavement, and we went out for about 3 weeks. They have a dog, and they really wanted to be by the Westminster Dog Park. And I have met so many people. Note to self: when father-in-law calls, it interrupts your life. I have met so many people lately that want to be by the Westminster Dog Park. It's really like a hot area, and people seem to really want to be there. So that was our market. Countryside was where we wanted to be. Countryside, maybe a little bit further east, but really that was kind of our main hotspot. And it was a hotspot. It was incredibly competitive. So for 3 weekends, well, first when we met, I went out and found there was like 12 houses that had tried to sell within the last year and didn't sell. Those are called expired listings. So first I went and dropped little packets on the seller's doors and tried to door knock, but right now I'm really respectful of that. And so I just left a little packet on the door and I'm like, I do have a buyer. If you're still wanting to sell, you wouldn't have to do showings and all that kind of, stuff that is not always easy to deal with. Nobody called. So I said, we're going to have to go to the MLS and compete with all these other buyers. So we did. And for 3 weeks, we were seeing homes listed in the 410s, 415s, 430 range, maybe up to 450. And those were selling for 480, 500, sometimes even 515. You want a water? Okay. So we quickly realized that market was not going to work for the budget that they really wanted to stay under. And I try to be really respectful of that. That's, it's expensive in Colorado to buy real estate. And if we have a hard stop, it's real tempting to say, well, if we just go up, 10 more thousand, maybe 5 more thousand, but at some point you have a stop, and their stop was 485. And they definitely wanted a detached single family with the yard, which I totally respect as well. So anyway, long story short, we offer on 3 houses over the course of 3 weekends. And we got beat out every single time. And we were offering, I actually pulled up the offers because this was back in February and March. And so I don't totally remember the ins and outs. Pulled up what we were offering and what we were telling people. So the last house that we had a not successful situation on was in Countryside. The buyers actually said, you know what, we drove by this house when we first started talking about looking, which was in October. And I was like, that right there, that's exactly what I want. That is the type of house I think I would love. And then that same house came on the market in March. So it was our 3rd weekend out. We were trying to find something to offer on. And this offer was crazy competitive. So just to give you some insight on what we did, normally there's about 11 parts of a transaction that a buyer can get out of the contract and retain their earnest money. So they can literally say, you know what, I changed my mind, inspection didn't go well, or I don't like the HOA rules, or there's an issue on title, or I don't like my loan terms. I don't want 3% interest. I really want 2.75% interest. And per the Colorado contract, the buyer would get their earnest money back in all of those scenarios, which is actually pretty crazy if you think about it. My dog might be obnoxious here. The neighbor dog is out running the fence. So anyway, we waived almost every option that we could, almost every deadline that we could. So I pulled the contract this morning to look back at what we were writing, and they would deliver earnest money deposit. Obviously, as soon as we went under contract, we would have the right for clear title, which is, we have to have that anyway to close. And then we literally were saying, we'll still do an inspection, but we're not going to ask you for a thing. We're not going to ask you to fix that water heater. We're not going to ask you to replace the furnace, nothing. We're going to take the home completely 100% as is, but we want the opportunity to do an inspection. So that was one thing. Then we said that we would cover any appraisal gap. So right now, one of the hardest parts of our market is things are selling higher than we have proof that they're worth. So when you get a loan from a bank, they want to know that they have some collateral behind your mortgage. And if you stop paying your payments, they're still going to get out X number out of this real estate asset that they're leveraging for your loan. So right now, a lot of appraisals are coming in low because we don't have values as high as buyers are having to pay for these homes. So we said full appraisal gap, which most buyers can come up with maybe 5,000, 10,000 over appraisal gap. There are some buyers who have full appraisal gap because cash is no issue, whether they've saved up for a long time or they're, moving here from another market and just have liquid available. But we were able to say, full appraisal gap, which with young buyers, I told them, you guys should be so proud of that. Like they had 20% down plus some extra that if they had to use, they could to leverage to get into the market. So full appraisal gap, which is super rare, inspection as is. We also offered that if anything in the contract terminated once we got past our inspection. So we wanted the opportunity to just have a good look around, make sure everything's good. But at that point, if we elected to move forward, their entire earnest money was hard, meaning if we terminated for any reason, the seller would get to keep that as damages for being off the market while we were messing around doing our due diligence and changing our mind. So we offered all of that. We didn't even get a call. We didn't even get a thank you so much for an offer. It's not quite what we're looking for. No call. I got an email that said, my seller selected another offer and it was higher in price than we had offered. The list price of that house was $430,000. We offered $481,000. So just to give you a rough idea, that's how high over we were going on this property. And we weren't even a call. We weren't even close. So that was the third week in a row that had happened. We had talked about resiliency. We had talked about being super, super competitive where we can. And we were pulling out all the stops and it just wasn't quite enough. So now gets to the fun part. So on the day that we saw that house that they had driven by and it was like their dream home, we, right after that showing, went to another house in Broomfield. And we literally walked in and it smelled like dogs. And the dog bowls, we talked about how big are these dogs? The dog bowls were massive, biggest dog bowls I've ever seen. And I remember we were there maybe 4.2 minutes. Like we were out of there in a hot minute. And there was cabinets, like the faces of the cabinets were like one was falling off. And I remember looking up at the ceiling fan and it was covered in dust. It just was not. We had just left the perfect house that was clean and updated and beautiful and in the area they want. And then we went to this house and it was like, I think we're ready to go. So we left. Well, right now, sellers are putting their house on the market typically like on a Thursday. And then they have showing start Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then they're picking an offer on Monday out of the pile that they have. So on Tuesday morning, I noticed that property was still on the market. And about an hour later, my buyer called and said, that house on 127th is still available. Can you find out if it's available? So I called and the agent said, we didn't get any offers this weekend. And he was very shocked. He was like really surprised that they didn't get offers. Hi, Ava. And so I said, and he said, but we're not doing showings again until next weekend because they have 2 large dogs, which we're like, yeah, we noticed. But he said, we're not doing any more showings until Saturday. I said, well, we've already seen it. We saw it last weekend. We just didn't offer on it because it wasn't quite what we were hoping it was to be like super competitive. If we're going to go for a house and go all in to the tune of what I just shared with you, it has to be what they want, right? But if there's not multiple offers and you have a pick and you have all your deadlines and you have those negotiation points, that house at $425,000 is a totally different ballgame. If we have the right to ask for things on inspection, we're not competing. We don't have to give appraisal gap. We don't have to bring extra cash at closing. And so everything shifted when he said, no, we didn't get offers. So I instantly called the buyer back and I said, it is available. They didn't get offers. And she goes, here's what I'm thinking. Is it smart that I'm thinking if we clean it and fix the kitchen and, take care, like the dogs will be gone, replace the flooring, could we have a detached single family house in Broomfield, close to another open space dog park, which is really what they wanted, for $425 instead of this other house where we can't ask for anything and we'd be all in for $485? I'm like, yeah, I think that's a very logistical mindset. So we had the offer written in 10 minutes. We sent it over to the seller, 5,000 under just to try and see what they would say. They countered back at full price, which I told my buyers, I'm not surprised. We went under contract, full price, $425. But guess what? We didn't have to go 50,000 over. We didn't have to come up with all that extra cash for appraisal gap. The difference in payment between the 485 and 425 was pretty substantial. That's about $60,000. So when you're running those numbers, about $250 a month, sometimes $300 a month for right now, you can do a lot with that money per month. We had a right to do our full inspection. Sewer line came back with an issue. We negotiated a credit additionally of $5,000 from the seller for that credit. You guys, they got such a great house, and furnace brand new, roof within like a year or two. They just had to look past the cosmetic stuff, but that can be changed so easily. And the money they're saving per month, the money they saved out of pocket up front, and now what they get to do with this house, and they get to make it their own. They don't have to say, oh, this is, nice kitchen. I wouldn't have picked this granite, but I like it. No, they get to pick whatever they want, and they're still going to come in under budget. So for our first week, I just wanted to share that feel good story. It was a win. The other thing is they locked in their rate before rates started going back up. So they were able to get that sub 3% interest rate. If we had waited 2, 3, 4 more weeks of being super competitive and possibly being bid out, they wouldn't have got the interest rate. So I'm a firm believer, like what's meant to be will be. And I see that all the time in real estate. Sometimes when we have to finagle and we're always coming up short and it's just not meant to be, it doesn't work. And then sometimes things like this happen and everything just kind of falls into place. And now they get to design their dream home under budget in an area they love. And it's so exciting. So, thanks for listening. None of my kids came out naked or with anything on their face, so I'll consider that a win. And I'm excited to come back on here next week and tell you another story. So thanks for listening and following along. I hope you all have a really good week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.